You get the ping at 9:47 p.m., the phone vibrates on the handlebar mount and the screen lights up your knuckles, a Thai place on Division Street. The estimated payout reads $7.82. Including tip, you have 4 minutes to get there. You tap accept before your brain finishes the math. This is the inciting moment, but it happens every night, so it barely registers as a moment at all. You push off the curb and the cold air hits your teeth. The moped is a 2019 Honda Metropolitan, 50 cubic centimeters of displacement. It cost you $1,400 from a guy in Gresham who wiped the odometer, and you both pretended not to notice. The storage box behind the seat holds one insulated delivery bag, one phone charger cable with a frayed tip, and a rain shell you never put on in time. You ride it because a car would eat the margin. Gas for the moped runs about $2 a night. Gas for a car would run 8 or 10. The difference between those numbers is the difference between doing this and not doing this. The Thai restaurant is called something you cannot pronounce. You have been here 11 times. The woman at the counter does not recognize you. She has never recognized you. She reads the order number off her screen, checks it against the sticker on the bag, hands it across the counter, and turns away. The bag is warm. The receipt stapled to it says Pad C, ew, extra egg, no bean sprouts. Someone out there has preferences. You do not know this person. You will stand at their door in 12 minutes and hand them this bag, and they will decide, based on some private calculation, what your labor was worth. More than half of what you earn tonight will come from those decisions. 53.4% of delivery driver earnings come from tips, according to the Gridwise data from 2024. The platform pays you a base. The customer pays you a wage. The distinction matters and no one makes it. You ride south on Hawthorne. The streets are wet, but it stopped raining an hour ago. The reflections of taillights stretch across the asphalt like red scars. A man stumbles off the sidewalk near the Baghdad Theater, and you swerve and the pad see. EU slides in the bag. You keep your speed at 28. The app tells you to turn on 37th. You turn on 37th. The customer's building is a 4-story walk-up with a code entry. The app says the door code is 4721. You punch 4721. Nothing happens. You punch it again. The little light stays red. You text the customer. You wait. 45 seconds pass. You text again. The phone shows the message as delivered but not read. You're standing in 38-degree air holding someone's dinner, and the clock is running, but you're not being paid for this part. The algorithm does not see you standing here. It sees a task in progress. James C. Scott wrote about how centralized systems impose legibility on the messy reel, stripping away what they cannot measure. The algorithm measures pickup time and drop-off time. It does not measure the minutes you spend circling a building, pressing buzzers, climbing stairs in a building where the elevator is broken. Finding that apartment 3B is actually on the 4th floor because the building starts numbering at the basement. These minutes are invisible. They are also your life. The customer buzzes you in at 10:04. You climb 2 flights. A woman in sweatpants opens the door 3 inches. Just leave it. She says, you set the bag on the mat. She closes the door. The tip will arrive in the app within an hour, or it will not arrive at all. You walk back down the stairs and check the screen. The payout for this delivery base only was $3.12. If she tips $4.70, you hit the estimate. If she does not, you made $3.12 for 17 minutes of work. That is $11 an hour before gas. You get back on the moped. The next ping comes in 40 seconds. A burger place on Belmont. $6 and change. You accept. This is the rhythm. This is the assembly line. Simone Weil worked at a Renault factory in 1934 and kept a diary about what repetitive, externally paced labor does to the spirit. She wrote that the worst part was not the fatigue, but the way the pace was never yours. The buzzer rang, and you moved. Your phone buzzes, and you move. The century changed, the mechanism did not. It is around this time, your 3rd week driving, that you meet Marco. He is picking up from the same burger place. He rides a bright orange electric bike with a milk crate zip-tied to the rear rack. He has 2 phones mounted on his handlebars. One runs Uber Eats, the other runs DoorDash. He is double-apping, which means he is accepting orders from both platforms simultaneously and weaving the routes together, gambling that the timing works. Sometimes it does. Sometimes the customer's burrito gets cold because Marco had to drop off a pizza first. He does not seem to care about this. He seems to care about nothing except the next ping. You gotta work the night, Marco says, leaning against the counter while the burger place assembles his order. Daytime is dead. Too many drivers' night is when the casuals go home. He is right about this. The economics of delivery driving shift after dark. Fewer drivers log on at midnight. Surge pricing kicks in. Demand concentrates because fewer restaurants are open. The experienced night driver is exploiting what amounts to a discomfort premium. You're being paid slightly more because most people do not want to ride a moped in the cold at 1 in the morning. Marco has figured this out. Marco has figured out a lot of things. He talks about the algorithm like it is a river with currents you can read. He knows which neighborhoods tip well. He knows which restaurants are slow. He knows that the GridWise data says drivers average $178 a week, and he says he beats that number by Thursday. You believe him, you believe everything he says, because he moves through the city like he owns it, and you move through the city like it is happening to you. You start riding with Marco, not together exactly, but in parallel. You compare earnings, you text between deliveries. He teaches you to decline orders under $6. He teaches you that the app penalizes you for declining too many, but not as much as people think. He teaches you that the real skill is not speed, but selection, choosing which pings to take. This is the closest thing to autonomy the platform offers. The rest is dictated. Guy Standing coined the term precariat to describe a class defined not by unemployment, but by chronic insecurity, unpredictable income, and the erosion of occupational identity. You're not a delivery driver, you are a person who delivers. The distinction protects something inside you, though you could not say what weeks turn into months. The months have a sameness that is hard to describe. You develop a callus on your right palm from the throttle grip. You learn which apartment buildings have working elevators and which ones lie. You learn that the text message saying "on my way with your order" is not a courtesy but a wage negotiation. The smile at the door is a wage negotiation. Everything is a wage negotiation disguised as human contact. Your earnings hover around $22 to $26 a night after expenses. The math never gets better. This is the structural trap. David Weil called it the fissured workplace. The platform sets prices, controls dispatch, rates you, determines whether you see orders at all. It does everything an employer does except call itself one. Then Seattle passes a minimum pay ordinance for delivery workers in January 2024. Base pay per task doubles overnight. Marco calls you at 11 p.m. excited. "We should move up there," he says. You check the data 2 months later. Tips per task in Seattle have dropped. Customers saw the higher base pay and adjusted downward. The net effect on monthly earnings was zero. Worse than zero, actually, because new drivers flooded the market. The promise of higher pay pulled in thousands of new signups. Incumbent drivers, the ones who had been working for months, saw their utilization rate decline. They spent more time waiting, more time driving between pickups without pay, more gas burned for nothing. This is Garrett Hardin's tragedy of the commons played out in real time. The platform is the unmanaged commons. Every new driver's rational decision to enter degrades the resource for everyone already there. The resource is orders. There are only so many people who want pad, see you at midnight. Marco moves to Seattle anyway. He calls you from there after 3 weeks and says, "It is good." He sounds manic. You drive up one weekend to visit. You find him living in his van, showering at a gym, working 14-hour days across 3 apps. His electric bike has a flat tire he has not fixed. He is riding a rental scooter and absorbing the cost. You ask him how his actual hourly earnings compare to Portland. He changes the subject. You realize, standing in a Safeway parking lot at 2 a.m. while Marco argues with a customer on the phone about a missing sauce packet, that his philosophy of constant motion is not freedom, it is avoidance. He left behind a friend in Portland who was sick, who needed help moving to a ground floor apartment, and Marco simply did not show up. He was online, he was always online, the algorithm was his alibi. You drive back to Portland, you keep delivering. The seasons change, and the moped feels different in each one. Summer is fast and dry, and the tips are worse because everyone is outside and cooking. Winter is slow and wet, and the tips are better because nobody wants to leave their apartment. You track your earnings on a spreadsheet you made in Google Sheets. You're one of the more engaged drivers. The GridWise dataset, covering 171 million trips, relies on self-reported data from drivers like you. The selection bias means the actual average is probably even lower than what they report. You're above average and you're still poor. Years pass. You get a part-time job at a coffee shop, then a full-time job at a warehouse. The moped sits under a tarp. Marco texts less often, his messages become erratic, then stop. You hear from a mutual friend that he is in Austin now, or maybe Tucson. The details are vague. He is still delivering. He is still chasing the next ping. You realize he will always be chasing it. The hunger for experience that he woke in you was real. It is still real, but you have learned that the road does not give back what it takes. The transcendence you felt on those cold nights, riding through wet streets with a stranger's dinner in your bag, was genuine. It was also unsustainable. The math made sure of that. You settle into something that resembles stability. You pay rent on time. You sleep regular hours. Sometimes at night you hear a phone buzz and your hand reaches for the handlebar mount that is no longer there. The reflex lives in your body like a phantom limb. The platform does not know you left. It sent you a reactivation email 6 months after your last delivery, offering a $5 bonus for your next 3 orders. You did not respond. Your account sits in a server somewhere, a series of data points, pickup times, drop-off times, ratings, acceptance rate, completion percentage. That is what you were, a set of metrics in a system that could replace you in the time it takes someone to download an app. The Commons is still open. New drivers are entering right now. Tonight, pushing off curbs into cold air with warm bags and bright screens. The numbers will not change for them. The numbers never change. You grow old, the city changes around you. The Thai place on Division closes and becomes a dispensary. The burger place on Belmont becomes a ramen shop and then a vacant storefront. Marco dies somewhere you never learn about, though you find out years later and it does not surprise you as much as it should. You die in a bed, in a room, in a city that once knew you as a blip on a map, moving between 2 points, carrying someone else's dinner through the dark.